Hello, Year Nines. So here we are again, back with our second stage of work for cold environments. And to this fortnight, we'll be looking at lesson 3, which is adaptations in the cold environments. And then lesson 4, which is going on to look at the opportunities for development in Svalbard. So we're looking at a particular place, a cold environment, which is in an island north of Norway, and looking at why people may be looking to develop that location. So first of all, thinking about adaptations. Now, we looked at this when we did tropical rainforests. So we know what we mean by adaptations, how plants and animals adapt and change, evolve to live in these difficult environments. And we're going to be looking at describing the adaptations and then explaining how they help species to survive, and suggest how changes in the cold environment could affect the species who have adapted. So how might changes linked to climate change or human interaction, human development affect the animals and plants that live there? So first of all, we're going to be looking at pages 11 onwards in the booklet. And first thing I want you to do is write down 5 features of cold environments which result in low biodiversity. So why are there so few plants and animals in cold environments? Okay, so think about the different features, different characteristics, the weather, the climate, the soils, things like that, the wind. It might mean that the biodiversity is so low. And then, you're doing that, sorry, on the hand. So give me 5 on the hand on page 11. Try and think of 5 features which result in low biodiversity. And then I want you to look at the 2 clips, the 2 YouTube clips below, one that talks about Arctic foxes and one that looks at the Arctic poppy, and looking at how these 2 animals and plants adapt to their environment. And finally, secondly, read page 12, which gives you some more information about plant and animal adaptations in cold environments. So following this, there are some tasks for you to have a look at. So first of all, nice straightforward one, look at the table on page 12, and I want you to look at the adaptations that are mentioned there. And all you got to do is put true or false. Is this real or not? So one of them says that one of the adaptations you find is that they have thin fur. Now, obviously, we know that that wouldn't be true, so we'd put that as false. Just so you know, fauna is another word for animals, and flora is another word for plants. So think of floral display means a flower display. So flora means plants, fauna, animals. Once you've done that and you've decided you've got those right, I want you to pick out 2 of the true adaptations from your table. And on page 13, I want you to explain how these adaptations help animals or plants to survive. Okay, so use the point develop approach, where you make your point, say what the adaptation is, and then develop it to say how it will help. So something you've done before when we did tropical rainforest, and this is making sure that, say you've got a 4 marker, you would be able to point develop, and get full 4 marks in an exam question. And then finally, in terms of adaptations, I want you to have a look at the image of a polar bear at the bottom of page 13. I want you to annotate it, which means detailed information about what you can see and what you know about a polar bear that helps it survive in polar and tundra regions. So consider the physical adaptations, so things like thick fur, and explain why that is important, but also what might polar bears do behaviorally to adapt to the climate. So involve migrating, moving from one place to another, things like that. So try and add on as many different things as you can, and you'll see that on that diagram, on that image, 1 has been done for you. Okay, and then that's that first lesson finished. So thinking about adaptation, something we've covered before, but thinking about it specifically with cold environments in mind. I want you to have a little go at the thinking hats task on page 14, where you've got different hats getting you to think differently about the lesson today. Was there anything you found difficult? Can you sum up today's learning in 1 sentence? Things like that. Okay, so just complete that task. And then obviously what you'll then do is you'll take a photograph of your tasks, or send me, if you're doing it on a Word document, send me that so I can check it and give you any feedback. Okay, so the second part of the fortnight's work is looking at development opportunities in a particular cold environment. So our example that we'll be using, our case study for cold environments, is Svalbard, which is in the Arctic Circle. So it's actually owned by Norway, but it's an island way, way north of Norway, up in the Arctic Ocean. And here we can see in this picture, you can see Longyearbyen, which is the capital of Svalbard, which got about 2,000 people live there. And you can see this amazing scenery, and then this sort of small town in this really difficult place to live. And we'll be looking at the difficulties of living somewhere like this in future lessons. And the first thing I want you to do is a quick Arctic true or false quiz, which is on page 15. And all you've got to do is, first of all, say whether you think these answers are true or false based on what you already know. So be careful with those, and then you can self-mark those afterwards. So I'm going to quickly move through because I think the answer's on this next slide. So okay, and what we're looking at is what are the, so first of all, where is Svalbard? So locating our case study, and then thinking about what opportunities are there in Svalbard. Why is it becoming a more and more developed place, more and more popular place? Now, to start off, I want you to watch this clip on YouTube and imagine you were having to pitch Svalbard to foreign tourists and investors. So think about any key facts you might want to write down on the back of your workbook, and then what are the opportunities and challenges for people and businesses there, and what is it that makes Svalbard stand out? What is its unique selling point? How would you try and sell it to potential investors? And then secondly, second task for this lesson is to describe the location of Svalbard. So on page 16 you have the map, and you can see where Svalbard is up in the north there. And I want you to think, right, how would I really describe the location using compass directions and specific locations? So we know that Svalbard's here. Where is Svalbard compared to, say, the UK? What ocean is it in? Where is it compared to Greenland? Okay, so saying things like it's north of and it's located in. Okay, so think about specific, detailed explanation of where Svalbard is, so it's clear in your mind. And Svalbard is as I say, Norwegian territory, so it's owned by Norway, and a lot of people there speak Norwegian, but obviously also influenced by Russia, because lots of people come in there to make most of the resources as well. So next, I want you to read carefully pages 16 and 17, which tells you about some of the things that are happening in Svalbard and why it's becoming more developed. And obviously these images as well give you some clues. We can see we've got some mining going on, energy production, fishing is key, and obviously also the amazing scenery there makes it very popular for tourism as well. So some of the key things that we'll be looking at. And then there are just a few tasks on this lesson. So first of all, on page 18, I want you to think about the different opportunities that have been highlighted, and how would each of these opportunities benefit local people? So what benefits would the local people get from mineral extraction, for example? And obviously that could be economic benefits, social benefits, so things like does it encourage better schools or better medical care for any reason, and obviously things like jobs as well. So try and think, what would the benefits to local people be for all four of the opportunities mentioned? And then taking a different slant on it, what might be the conflicts that could arise from these different opportunities? So think again, social, economic, environmental. So what if you have increased tourism, what pressure might that put on these delicate ecosystems? Could it mean that there is increased contact with polar bears and therefore increased risk? Could it mean that there's damage to the environment? Think about energy development and mineral extraction. What damage might that do to this delicate environment? Okay, so think, what conflicts might there be? Who might come into conflict with who, and what damage could happen? And then the last section for this one is, can you then try and bring all this knowledge together? I want you to try and collate your knowledge in the form of either an advert that might go in the paper, a poster that's going to be sort of displayed at, say, tube station, things like that, or an article in a newspaper that's trying to encourage people to either visit or invest in Svalbard. So really thinking about what the attractions of the place are, what its benefits are, but maybe you also might want to highlight some of the challenges and say how these might be overcome. Okay, so bringing it all together. And then finally, last bit for this 2 weeks of work is to have a look at the Post-it notes on page 20. Use your critical thinking skills and new knowledge and try and answer each of the questions on the Post-it notes, and try and do so in 10 words or less. Okay, so these are not long answers. Try and think, how can I answer that question, bringing what I've learnt in 10 words or less. Okay, so that's the end of the 2 weeks of lessons, this fortnight's worth. Obviously, if you've got any questions about the work, you can email me. If you've finished it and you want to send it in, then you can do it via class charts or by emailing me, and we will, or your teacher, and we will get back to you. Okay, have a good couple of weeks, and I will see you soon. See you later. Bye.